Energy has no color, no shape, no sound. Yet it is the most beautiful of all things, because it animates everything. The world, when stripped of motion, would be indistinguishable from nothingness. In the hum of a small motor, in the faint glow of a single LED, there lies the same mystery that moves the stars. It is this mystery that the DIY physics science experiment motor generator kit brings back into the hands of the curious. At first glance, it is only a child's learning tool, two small motors, a belt, a light, a battery holder. Yet within its small frame resides the entire history of human inquiry into the invisible. Every rotation of its little wheel repeats the question that once shaped civilizations: what is energy, and where does it come from? The simple experiment begins with motion. One motor is turned by hand or by battery. Its shaft spins, the belt carries the rotation to the second motor. The second, though built identical to the first, changes its role, it becomes a generator. Its coil, passing through a magnetic field, produces current. That current lights the LED. This is not a trick. It is the visible manifestation of the most foundational truth in physics, that energy is never created, only transformed, from mechanical to electrical, from motion to light. Yet what is easily observed in this little toy is rarely understood in the heart. Because energy, though measurable, is not a substance. It is a relationship. It is the consequence of tension, the geometry of difference. That is what this tiny model teaches. Not formulas, not units, but the very language of reality, motion born from field, balance born from opposition. Long before children learned these lessons through plastic gears and LEDs, there was a man alone in a small workshop in London, Michael Faraday. He was not a university scholar or a mathematician. He was an apprentice bookbinder who loved to tinker. In 1831, he wound a coil of copper around a ring of iron, passed a magnet through it, and saw the needle of a galvanometer quiver. A current had been born from motion. That moment, quiet, uncelebrated, changed the human world forever. Faraday had uncovered the principle of electromagnetic induction. Motion through a magnetic field produces an electric current. It was so simple that even he admitted he could not explain why. In that instant, motion and magnetism ceased to be separate phenomena. They became two faces of one field. The invisible had found a way to speak. Every time a child spins the motor in this kit and sees the LED flicker, they unknowingly reenact that same revelation. They are touching the same field that Faraday touched, the living geometry of the universe. But history, like current, flows in spirals. After Faraday came a man who dreamed not only of understanding the field, but of living inside it. Nikola Tesla, the man whose name became a synonym for genius, believed that the entire planet was an electrical organism, that the Earth itself pulsed with an endless sea of potential. He built great coils that hummed with resonance, towers that tried to send power through the air. His aim was not to dominate nature, but to harmonize with it. Tesla once wrote, "If you wish to find the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration." He meant that energy is not a commodity, but a language, the grammar of existence. When you watch the little belt of the generator kit move, when the second motor begins to glow the light by no external power but motion itself, you are touching that language. The same principle that turns turbines, spins satellites, and carries radio waves across space resides within this humble device. This is not just STEM education. It is initiation into a way of seeing. If Faraday gave us the birth of the electric age, and Tesla gave us its vision, then perhaps what we lack now is memory. For most of human history, people looked upon energy with reverence. Fire was sacred, water divine, lightning a god's gesture. Even as we mastered electricity, we forgot its mystery. The field became formula, the formula became industry, and the living awe behind it faded. But when a child holds a motor, feels its vibration, and sees light emerge from motion, that awe returns. For a brief moment, the world regains its wonder. The DIY motor generator kit revives that wonder in a form both simple and profound. It takes the grandest questions of science and folds them into the size of a palm. How does motion become current? Why does magnetism exist? What does it mean that every action creates an opposite reaction, yet balance remains? These are not just lessons for classrooms. They are the same questions that formed the soul of modern physics. In the 19th century, education was often tactile. Before screens, before simulations, there were gears, wires, levers. Children learned by touching, by feeling, by building. They learned that knowledge is not consumption, but creation. The old science sets of the Victorian age, coils, magnets, lenses, Leyden jars, were more than toys. They were invitations to participate in the world's secrets. Every small experiment whispered the same truth: the universe is not mechanical, it is alive with field and flow. This new generator kit continues that tradition. It gives back the feeling of direct engagement, of learning through fingers as well as thought. It asks the learner not to memorize, but to perceive. The motor hums softly, the belt moves smoothly, the light glows. And in that glow is comprehension, not taught, but earned. There is something deeply symbolic about this simplicity. In a world where our machines grow silent, invisible, and abstract, this one still shows its work. You can see energy move. You can trace cause and effect. Modern devices hide their mechanisms behind microchips and enclosures. We no longer see motion, we only experience outcomes. The generator kit reverses that condition. It is transparent, literally and metaphorically. To turn it on is to remember what technology once was: a dialogue between curiosity and matter. The sound of a whirring belt is not noise. It is the whisper of cause speaking to consequence. There is a moral dimension in motion, too. To create energy is to overcome resistance, both physical and mental. Every rotation of the motor is an allegory for effort: push, turn, transform. That is why such a kit belongs not only in schools, but in homes. It teaches patience through repetition, insight through play. It reminds both child and adult that understanding the world is not an act of possession, but of harmony. The little motor runs because it participates in the laws that already exist. It does not command energy, it cooperates with it. That, too, is a lesson, and perhaps the most important one of all. It is said that when Faraday first demonstrated electromagnetic induction to a government minister, the man asked, "But what use is it?" Faraday replied, "What use is a newborn baby?" He knew that utility would follow understanding, that comprehension precedes control. This kit embodies the same philosophy. It does not pretend to give immediate practical results. Instead, it cultivates understanding, curiosity, and imagination, the true sources of progress. The battery provides power to one motor, but the mind provides power to the other. It is tempting to think that the age of discovery is over, that everything worth knowing has been measured. Yet the field, that invisible ocean that binds all things, still holds mysteries we can barely name. In the quiet spin of a small generator, you can sense that infinity. You can sense what Ken Wheeler calls the dielectric inertia, the stillness behind motion, the point from which all polarity emerges. The child who watches the LED flicker may not know the equations, but they feel the essence. That power arises not from consumption, but from difference resolved in rhythm. Energy is not fuel. It is tension returning to harmony. From a practical perspective, the DIY motor generator kit is beautifully built. Its parts are sturdy, made of durable ABS plastic. The motors are compact but efficient. The belt runs smoothly, showing both mechanical and electrical interplay. It runs on 2 AA batteries, and it requires no tools beyond curiosity. For parents, it is a doorway into teaching. For educators, it is an anchor point for physics and creativity. For anyone who still believes that learning should awaken wonder, it is a small miracle in motion. To hold it is to hold a fragment of civilization's story. To use it is to participate in that story's continuation. History will remember our time not for our wealth of information, but for our poverty of understanding. We have endless data about the field, but little feeling for it. This small motor, paradoxically, brings that feeling back. It transforms abstraction into experience. When the LED lights up, it is not just the triumph of a circuit, it is the reappearance of knowledge as wonder. That little point of light is the visible symbol of comprehension itself. Energy does not need to be massive to be meaningful. Sometimes the smallest pulse carries the deepest truth. There is a line from the ancient Hermetic tradition: as above, so below, as within, so without. The same could be said of this generator. What happens in its tiny coils mirrors what happens in the cosmos. Fields interacting, motion arising, light emerging. The motor is a metaphor for life itself, resistance met with will, motion converted to illumination. And perhaps that is why such a small educational toy feels almost sacred. It is not merely a teaching aid, it is a symbol of the unity between thought and matter, intention and result. When we turn the motor, we turn the world. Let us return, finally, to where we began. The hum of the motor fades. The light glows softly, then goes out. The child looks up, and in that gaze there is understanding. That is all education was ever meant to achieve. The DIY physics science experiment motor generator kit does not sell electricity, it sells comprehension. It reminds us that energy is not only a physical phenomenon, but a philosophical one, the constant conversation between motion and stillness, between knowing and wondering. Build it. Turn the wheel. Watch the light come alive. And know that within that small glow lives the oldest secret in the universe. The pulse of invisible power, waiting for a mind to notice.